Hello, this is Ricky Walker with his brief presentation on the case of New York versus Belton. So there has always been a lot of questions on what authority an officer has uh, when they initiate an arrest after a traffic stop, and what can they search, what can they not search, what authority do they have. And New York versus Belton actually cleared up a lot of these questions. So, firstly, what ended up happening in New York versus Belton is these four passengers or these four individuals were driving in a fast car. And because of this speeding, the officer in New York pulled them over and he asked for their license and registration. Uh, After he asked for their license and registration of the driver, he smelled for marijuana smoke, and he also smelled the marijuana itself. The second thing he did see was an envelope that had the specific wording "Super Gold." Due to experience, he noticed that or knows that uh, this was linked to prior drug cases or marijuana cases. So he, at this point, arrested the individuals for possession of marijuana. So he pulled out the individuals from the vehicle, separated them so they had limited interaction, and he went ahead and searched the vehicle. So what ended up happening is it did have marijuana in it, but as he searched the rest of the passenger compartments, he noticed that one of the jackets had a zipped up pocket, and in that zipped up pocket, he found cocaine, a federally controlled substance. So the individual who owned the jacket was Belton, and that went from a simple possession of marijuana case to a even bigger case of possession of cocaine. So he arrested them. Of course, they were already arrested. And then he took them to the police station and charged them for possession of marijuana. And in this case, in Belton, he was charged with possession of cocaine. Um, the states found Belton guilty of possession of cocaine, what ended up happening is Belton appealed because he felt that at that time the officer didn't have authority to check his zipped up jacket or any jacket because he was already out of the vehicle, he was out of the car and under arrest for possession of marijuana. So the officer did not have authority to search that jacket, which was a very big question at that time. Is can an officer check everything else after they committed the arrest and they're no longer in that premises? So the appeals court actually agreed with Belton and basically ruled the cocaine as inadmissible. You can't use it in a court because it violated the rights of due process, and he didn't have a warrant to search for that specific drug or anything of that nature. So this landed it into the Supreme Court. So the court saw different. Simply speaking, the court saw it as, you know what, it was within his scope of authority to search, and it cleared up or gave him a lot more power to do those searches. But there was a few cases that were actually very important that were brought up. So overall, there were three justices that actually disagreed with the verdict. So I'm going to go ahead and go with those first. So the justices felt those three justices felt that they didn't have the right. It would too much time had passed. It wasn't in control of the individual, and they were already under arrest. So basically, that opportunity to search for more drugs was passed, and they felt that this verdict of he is guilty because they found cocaine is putting up a whole bunch of questions and a whole bunch of problems of when is too much time has passed for an officer to commit or to commit that search for that specific crime. So those were the questions that were brought up, and that's why those three justices decided that no. The majority actually viewed it slightly different, actually a lot different, because they were uh, for the officer's authority to search. So firstly, the warrant. The officer didn't have a warrant. That was actually answered very simply in the McDonald versus the United States case that one of the justices brought up. There are three again. Uh, This one states that a warrantless search can be conducted if the circumstances is based on the arrest. So, for example, this is a drug charge. They're going to conduct a search to find more drugs, things like that. Uh, of course, there are other implications, but it has to match. There has to be a reason behind that warrantless search that is linked to um, that specific crime and the specific search. The second case is actually there's two more cases. They're part one and part two with the way I see it. The first one is Chima versus California. This was the brute, if you want to call it that an officer can conduct a warrantless search uh, as long as it's within that area, immediate surroundings, to search for any weapons that can be used against them and any evidence that can be destroyed or hidden. So that's the next case. Now, the problem with this was what is the original scope? So back in the day, it was more of a driver's side, and then of course probably the passenger side that's right next to it, not the back seat. Well, the courts argued, you know what? No, it's like you're in the cab of the car, and you have access to the entire cab of the car. It's not like the trunk where you have to exit out, turn off your car, and unlock it, and then go search your trunk. So the way they saw it is this fell under Chimo versus California. It was within the immediate area, although you can't necessarily reach it, and you would probably have to twist and turn and things like that, but you still have access to it. Um, the next one, part two, kind of cemented this. So this was the United States versus Robinson case that they brought up. So in Robinson, they said an officer can search a closed container or an open container for evidence. This is important because technically the jacket is a closed container. It's zipped up, so it's closed, of course, not accessible. And the officer had to open it in order to search it. So in this case, that answer that question is like, you know what, the officer did have the right to open that jacket and search for the drugs. So with these three cases, they cemented it's like, you know what, you were within the cab of the car. So all that area was in your control at the time of the arrest and before the arrest. Secondly, the closed container argument, you can't hide it in a Yeti or a closed container. Those cups that twist and close and you can't see what's in it and throw it in the back seat and say, oh, I didn't have it. You don't have authority over it. Now, in this case, you do. It's within your scope and they can search that container. So that cleared up a lot of questions for that specific term. Now, the big issue was it past the time, right? It's like was the officer within his like time frame to actually conduct that search, and that leads to the question from the other justices: when has too much time passed? So the majority of the justices said it's within that time, although he did not have control because he was already outside of the vehicle and he was arrested. It was during that time frame. It was during the arrest. There was no. It wasn't. Oh, we're taking him away and arresting him and taking him to jail, and then a few hours later they search it in a warrantless search. No, it was done right then and there. Finding the evidence, there wasn't too much time passed from that specific situation, and then basically from here, that cleared it. It was it was within the time frame. It was the correct charge, looking for more drugs, and he was within the right within those three cases. And because of this, that cleared up a lot of problems because now it's not, oh, you can only search the side passenger that's right next to the suspect that's driving. Now they can search the back seat because that's also in your area. Now, if you have a backpack and you stuff it in your backpack all the way to the bottom, now they can search your backpack because that is a closed container for as long as it's within that scope. They're searching for more drugs or more evidence, a weapon that can be used against them, and of course, it's under your control. Of course, like I said, it's a bit different than when you're drunk. That's another issue that can be brought up later. But that was the main problem, and that's what the officers agreed. And from that point forward, uh, officers are now able to check the immediate cab of the car. They're able to search any containers, whether it be a jacket, a backpack, anything of that nature. and as long as uh, it's for the linked to the crime, so in this case, drugs to a drug charge, it met that scope. And so everything lined up perfectly in this case. And because of it, now officers have that more clear authority because back in the day, it wasn't that clear. There were some cases that did go through, and there's some cases that did not go through. That those evidence that was found was inadmissible. So in this, so that's what happened in New York versus Belton, and that's why it was so important because that opened up a lot for future crimes and future cop stops that ended up leading to an arrest. Thank you.